All right. So the formula for a sphere is 4 pi r squared. All right, so that's for the outside surface area of a sphere. So if we had a sphere with a radius of 5 centimeters, how would I find the surface area? 4. We need some people with some calculators out for me, please. 4 times pi times 5 squared, which is?
Oh, 314.159.
155. Oh, 16 really. All right, so centimeters squared. Everyone okay with that? And that's the reason why you need to know pi to at least 4 decimal places, hey? Okay. Never. All right. Is everyone okay with that? Oh. All right, so if I look at a hemisphere, you guys should be able to work out how to find, if you didn't look at it on the screen just then, how to find the surface area of a hemisphere. So what shapes are on the surface area of a hemisphere? Circle on the bottom, so that's pi r squared. What else have we got? Half a sphere. So if a sphere is 4 lots of pi r squared, what would half a sphere be? 2 lots of pi r squared. So we've got 2 lots of pi r squared plus the 1 becomes 3 pi r squared as your final answer, yeah? So if you have a closed hemisphere, it is 3 pi r squared. If it's an open hemisphere, 2 pi r squared. So with a base or without a base. Could you write those two down, please? But the whole point is if you can actually work that out yourself, then the formulas aren't like people don't have to be dependent on the formulas as much. As long as you know the sphere, the rest of it you guys should be able to work out yourselves. Okay. Any questions on the sphere or a hemisphere? All right, so I haven't done an example of that one. So if we look at a cone, I need you guys to really understand this. So could you just draw that first and then I'll talk about it. Now, this is an L. Sometimes it's also an S. It's the slant length. It's that length along here. It's not a perpendicular height. It's a slant length. So it's this distance from the tip to the end down here, okay? Slant. So you've got the height, you've got a slant length, and you've got a radius. Now, my question for you is, what happens if you don't get, okay, I'm telling you the slant length is in the formula. What happens if you didn't get given the slant length? Figure out the, so if we have the height and we have the radius, we can actually use that to find. So notice if I actually put that height in a different spot, if I draw it down here, notice that the height and the radius become a right angle triangle. And so your slant length can be the hypotenuse, which means you can use Pythagoras. Once again, every lesson, Pythagoras seems to come up, okay? So we need to be able to, I'm going to give you the formula which you'll get, but also you will need to work out a formula which includes Pythagoras in case you don't get given the slant height. And often we don't, because we want to test you on Pythagoras at the same time as we test you on this. It's an easy way of putting two things into one. All right, so this is one of those questions where if you get stuck, just think about it. Can I use Pythagoras some way to help myself to be able to answer it? If you got stuck on one of these and you forgot about Pythagoras and there was no slant height and you just went, I've got no idea, and you're about to leave it completely blank, what do you reckon you could do as well? Just guess a number, write slant height equals this, and then show me all you're working out with that slant height number, and you can get lots of marks still. Just don't leave things blank, okay? As long as you make it clear what you're doing. However, that's not the first thing you should do. That's the last thing you should do. All right, so if I have that, we have this formula, which is total surface area equals pi times r times L. So pi times r times slant length plus pi r squared. Why do you reckon it has pi r squared there? Because that's the base, okay? So this is the base of, and this is the cone part. Yes. You don't get all the formulas for the prisms, but you get the formulas for the ones which you can't work out yourself. So you get the formula for area of each shape. And then if, like with these, it doesn't, we'll try and find the formula sheet for you. So pi times r times L, which is your slant height. You'll notice you actually don't need the height of the actual, of the cone for this formula. So if they give it to you, probably because you have to work out the slant height from it. Or you're working out the volume which you need it for. All right, so if instead I didn't get told L and I wanted to work out what the slant height was, but I did have R and H, how would I find L? R squared plus H squared. So if you think about it, slant length is the square root of R squared plus H squared because it's Pythagoras. If you look at this, the two shorter sides squared. So if we had to rewrite this formula, we could actually write total surface area equals pi times R times the square root of R squared plus H squared plus pi R squared. That would be the formula with, if you don't know the slant length, because you've just put in that Pythagoras part instead. Or you could just work it out using Pythagoras, write it in, and then use the formula at the start as well. It's up to you. Any questions there? Can you see what I did there? Is anyone going, what in the world did you just do? Yes? Okay. So if we think about Pythagoras and we look at a right angled triangle, so here we've got this right angled triangle. You see that? So we've got H is the height of that right angled triangle and R is the base, and we're trying to find the hypotenuse. So when we use Pythagoras, we look at A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So if we put these formulas in, we're actually saying H squared plus R squared equals L squared. That's that slant length, yeah? So to get rid of the squared, we can actually get rid of the squared and make it the square root. So that's where this comes in. So L is the same as saying R squared, square root of R squared plus H squared. So if I don't have the slant height, instead, but I do have the radius and the height, I can sub this into the formula instead of slant height, because I need to have the slant height for the formula. Or you can just work it out and then put it in. I'll go through it again later if you need to. Okay, so if we look at, all right, let's have a look at this example here. So we've just been given a cone which is 3 meters tall and 4 meters as a radius. What do we need to be able to find? The slant height. Now we should straight away know what the slant height is. 5, because 3, 4, 5 is one of those Pythagorean I can never pronounce it. Triads, yes. So 3, 4, 5. What is the other one? 6, 8, 10. And what's the other one? 5. No. 5, 12, 13. All right, so we know that's 5 meters. So then we can say our formula for total surface area is pi times r times slant length plus pi r squared. And then that's it.
Times 20 plus.
Yep. That's one way of doing it. And then hope to find an answer. All right. Everyone okay with that? You could have just put the first line into your calculator and put an answer as well. Any questions? We've still got one lot of shapes to go. What is it? We talked about them. Pyramids. All right, so can you write pyramids, please? Just the one.
It's like that.
A cylinder?
Yeah. Have you already done that?
Well, a cone is the pyramid form of a cylinder. All right, so a pyramid, can you write pyramid? A pyramid has a base shape connected with triangles. They're usually named by their base shape. So, for example, a square-based pyramid has, and we've already talked about this, has a square as a base, and then it has 4 triangles. Now, what I need you to be aware of is the triangles. See how this says this is 5 centimeters? That's the height of the pyramid. Bryce, do you need to go outside? Okay, that would be the height of this, here to here, from the middle point to the tip. Okay, 5 centimeters. However, we're actually trying to find the area. Can I just get everyone's eyes up? We're trying to find the area of this triangle here, this one. Is the height 5 centimeters? No, it's the height from here to here, which is probably going to be longer because it's on a slant, okay? So we need to know what that height is, okay? The height of the triangle, not the height of the pyramid, to be able to work out the area of these triangles, okay? So sometimes you might have to use Pythagoras or sometimes they might give it to you, but just be aware that for surface area, you need to have this sort of slant height, the perpendicular height of the actual triangle, right? That's where most people go wrong with these questions. So if we look at it, we've got a square, which is 5 by 5. So we're just saying 5 times 5, 25. All right, and then we've got 4 lots of triangles. Be aware that the height is 6 centimeters. It tells you along the edge there. The base is 5 centimeters. So how do we find the area of a triangle? Half the base times the height. So half of 5 times 6. Now, half of 5 is 2.5. 2.5 times 6 I find harder than going half of 6 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Now, you can do it in any way.
5 times 6 is 30.
Yep, any way you wish to. All right, so then we've got 15 square centimetres. So our total surface area is, oh, hang on, what do I still need to do? Good, times by 4. I knew there was an extra step for some reason. Equals 60. And so our total surface area is 85 square centimetres. Okay, remember to use the height of the triangle. Could you please put an asterisk and write that down because that is where everyone goes wrong. Any questions about square-based pyramids? All right, so if it was a rectangular base pyramid, you'd find the rectangle and the two lots of two triangles. Okay, so just be aware of that. So if you want to, the actual formula would, like if you wanted to work this out, you'd be going base squared plus two lots of base times the height if you wanted to use that. However, that will not be on your formula sheet. You would need to be able to work that out yourself. Base squared because the base is the square. So you've got, yeah? And then two lots of base times height because it's four lots of half base times height, which in total becomes 2. Okay, you don't have to write that down if you don't want to. And that's fine. So you guys should now be able to finish all of exercise 9A. So it's questions 1 to 16. You guys should have already done 1 to 8 and 11. If you haven't, you need to get them done. Now, the other class finished, most people finished all this yesterday and had no homework last night. Okay, so you should be able to work through this as you go. Be aware there's a couple of tricky ones. Ask for help if you need it.